Welcome back to the Ed Show. Finally tonight, Reverend Al Sharpton is fed up with Rush Limbaugh's blatant on-air racist remarks over the years. Last week, he met with the FCC and asked them to take action, take a stand on Limbaugh. There will be public meetings. Bill O'Reilly, Fox, caught wind of it and weighed in on his show last night.
Listen, the FCC's not going to do anything about that.
Why'd they meet with him?
Because to mollify him, to say they met with him. I don't have a beef unless they start in that direction. Then we're going to have a major beef. There shouldn't be any government intrusion or censorship in the media.
Can you imagine?
For more, let's turn to Reverend Al Sharpton. Reverend, this is the beginning of the pushback. What do you think?
Well, first of all, we're not talking about censorship. We're talking about standards, and there are already standards in place. We're saying those standards ought to include those that in a explicit or even implicit way practice racism or sexism or homophobia on the airwaves. And can you imagine the arrogance of saying federally regulated airwaves should not be subjected to federal public hearings? So they should just grant licenses, allow people to say what they want, only have standards for what the right wing thinks we should have standards for. Either they should say, let's have no standards at all, or let's have these public hearings and let them defend what they're saying, since these licenses are granted by the FCC are a privilege. They're not a right. They're not an entitlement. They need to be defended.
You think that there's going to be more media people coming out questioning your motives on this? And also, I wonder if you think Bill O'Reilly is against the public meetings on what's being said on regulated airwaves in America. What do you think?
Well, I think that's a very good question that I think Mr. O'Reilly will have to answer. And I think more media types will come out. The question will be, when they come out, why don't you come out against all standards? Why are you just against our raising these questions? And mind you, a lot of these right-wingers take people that in their private lives, private platforms, they castigate their rhetoric. They castigate their language. They use it every political campaign. Isn't it interesting they don't want any kind of standards when it comes to federally regulated airwaves? Let's remember now, these are regulated airwaves that already have standards. But all is not lost, because I am very, very much tempted, in the spirit of Senator DeMint, to send my friend Mr. O'Reilly a Christmas gift, and that's Howard Kurtz's profile on a great American, You. That's my Christmas gift to Bill.
Well, Reverend Sharpton, I have to tell you, doing this show and getting to know you over the last year has been a highlight for me. You are a real fighter for the American people and what is socially correct in this country for all Americans, and I admire you for your tenacity.
Well, I admire you. You've given progressives a real voice, and it is not playing to the bizarre ends or hysteria. We need a real dialogue in this country, and we don't need it tainted by hate speech by anybody, those of us on any side. And many of us have said things we shouldn't have said, but we don't have the right to use federally regulated airwaves to do it.
And finally, Reverend, quickly, the big story today about the president. Your thoughts on his accomplishments, quickly.
I think when you ran the list down, any American ought to say this is the most productive president we've seen, not only during a lame duck session, but in the first 2 years. I'm glad that I have been one that has been supportive of the president, because he's been supportive of the American people.